Well, hello. Welcome back to another exciting edition of Coffee with Stephen. So, this week's blog is entitled The Downside of Knowledge. Yeah, reality is that sometimes when you are suddenly enlightened with new information, one that essentially goes against the dominant paradigm that you've always assumed was correct, there's a emotional reaction to that. You know, a lot of times, especially those of us that have given almost a religious fervor to the idea of continuing education, and continuing education comes with a cost. Oftentimes, when the statue or the idol that you have been paying homage to for multiple generations is suddenly shown to be made of clay, there's a psychic damage that is associated with that. And in it, this blog, I kind of reference a couple of different points. The first one for me had to do with when I was in law school. I had gone to law school with a belief system, if you will, that the United States had the single best legal system on earth. I mean, I had just sort of bought into that statement. As far as I was concerned, no other legal system on earth could potentially try to compete with the United States for our ability to establish an understanding of the truth. And when I got into law school and I took comparative law and I looked at how other states deal with finding out what the truth of a matter is, not necessarily seeking justice, that's an entirely different thing. I'm talking about just simply trying to ascertain what facts had actually taken place. I realized that, quite candidly, Germany does a far better job of it than we do. And that was disheartening to see because our entire judicial philosophy has been based around this sort of adversarial system. And in reality, that an inquisitorial system might be better when it comes to finding out what actually happened. So that damaged me. I mean, I was upset about the fact that I had spent all these years of my life sort of assuming something was the truth, and then I found out through empirical information that it may not necessarily be true. The second one that was really, really impactful to me dealt with a missile launch that the North Koreans had engaged in. This is going back probably, I think it was around 2010. Where the North Koreans claimed that they had launched a satellite into space. Our government most instantaneously claimed that the rocket had been destroyed on takeoff. And I remember sitting there thinking to myself, for the first time in my life, I don't know who to believe. I am as distrustful of our government and the propaganda that they've been spewing out as I am the North Koreans. I was in a perfect state of equipoise. Both might be being absolutely correct. And that was disheartening to make that realization that, unfortunately, I couldn't just accept what our government was saying at face value. This dovetails into the last one, which I think is extremely important. Over the last number of months, this administration has been articulating a belief that the most dangerous threat to American society right now is white supremacy. And in fact, our entire internal defense posture is being oriented around the idea that white supremacists are on the verge of taking over our country. I don't believe it. I just being absolutely blunt. I don't believe it. Now, I have a lot to lose if I'm wrong. I'm Jewish, okay? White supremacists are not overly thrilled with my group even being in existence, all right? Let alone being pushed over to some African country and having some sort of separate but equal concept. I've actually run the position of the enemy trying to exterminate my people, all right? So the fact is, I should be keyed into the idea that white supremacists are evil and they need to be stopped. And, to be quite candid with you, I do believe that they are evil and that they do need to be stopped. But I also have to be realistic in making an understanding as to what level of threat they actually represent, not just to me, but to our entire republic. And quite honestly, I think it's fairly marginalized. As I say in the blog, we've seen white supremacists. Right? They've been largely marginalized. They're looked at as being effectively nothing more than cartoon characters, and their ability to actually engage in terrorist activities has been really, really minimalized. I mean, there's been certain high profile actions, no question about that. Oklahoma City bombing was an example of that. But as far as having the ability to systemically create or alternatively, manipulate the American body politic, and we haven't seen that. And yet we are now being told that they represent the greatest threat to our popular government. I just don't believe it. I do believe that there is a very convenient level of use of white supremacists, but to believe that somehow that right at this moment in our history, white supremacy has reached the pinnacle of their power flies in the face of everything that we see on a daily basis. So, again, as we become more and more exposed to the truth, unfortunately, we also have a reality that the truth sometimes makes us realize that we have to completely rejigger our underlying paradigms. And that, for many people, is painful to actually go through. Anyways, I encourage you to read the blog. You may completely disagree with me. That's perfectly acceptable too. As always, you can comment directly on the blog, or you can email me at stephen@artemishq.com. All that being said, I want you to train constantly, consistently, repetitively, and with purpose. Above all else, stay safe.